Hey everybody, welcome to class. In this video tutorial, we're going to take a quick look at how to create, gold text. Isn't that pretty cool? Yeah. Now, I need to mention something first. This video tutorial and its accompanying homework assignment are designed only for those who are enrolled in the honors program. Now, if you are not enrolled in the honors program, you do not have to complete this homework assignment. Of course, you're welcome to work through it yourself just for your own personal learning, but you will not receive academic credit for it if you are not in the honors program. So this is basically for those who are in the honors program. Now, with that said, let's go ahead and get started here. Now, we're going to be covering over concepts that you guys learned basically in lessons 1 through 4. Of course, lessons 1 and 2, you guys learned how to work with text and the various formatting, things like paths and that type of thing, and how to place text together and formatting and all that jazz. Of course, 3 and 4, we're working with colors, reflections, and things like adjustment layers and all that cool stuff. So let's go ahead and get started and show you guys how this is done. Now I have a brand new image. I just reopened up this texture background. Of course, you recognize it from this one right here. This is a free image off of a website called Pixabay. That's Pixabay.com. And with that mentioned, let's go ahead and click, and we're going to put in the word gold right on the screen. Now I'm using the font here, Blackmore letter, because it tends to have kind of that old style, pirate look to it. I think it actually looks pretty cool there. Doesn't that remind you of that kind of the old pirate days? Yeah. So let's go ahead and then put some formatting onto this. It's called in here layer styles. Now the first thing we want, of course, is a nice drop shadow. Yeah, it looks pretty good right there. I'm using about 80 pixels and 55 for spread. Now the spread spreads it on out or makes it stronger if I want. About 55 I think is about right on. And of course 80, yeah, it looks good. Cool. And I'll say okay. And boom. So that's step 1, add a drop shadow. Step 2 we need to do is to add what's called a bevel and emboss. That's where you get that chiseled look to the text. So let's go ahead and click that. And ta-da! It actually remembers my settings from the past. I'm going to reset, take that out, so you guys can see it as, see it on my screen as it would be with yours. First thing first, we don't want the chisel to be smooth. If it's smooth, see here, it just has this nice soft edge to that. That's not what we're looking for. Pirate text should be chiseled and rough, not elegant, smooth, and polished. It just doesn't go with it, okay? So we want something that is chiseled, okay? So chisel hard, and now it's going to give us that nice hard chiseled look to that. Now I highly recommend that you increase the chisel on up to 200%. The stronger the chisel, the more reflection you're going to get, especially when we come down to dealing with reflections like the gloss contour right down here. And of course, for the size, I recommend that you do about 100, or you could even do more if you want to. See, 0 is basically none. Crease that up, you start seeing the chisel coming in on the edges, and I'm going to push that right up to, yeah, maybe 200. That sounds good. Cool. How does that look to you guys? Yep, pretty neat there. Now the lighting is pretty simple. You can choose the angle in which the sunlight is coming in on it. So if I want to come in kind of from this direction, you see the little circle there. Now if I want to come in from the side, you will then come in from the sides. So you got the highlights here and the shadow on the opposite sides. So highlights and shadow, see that? Or if I want it from down underneath, it will then come in from the bottom and shadow the opposite side. See there? So I'm going to choose, I think that looks pretty good. Good. Now here is one of the magical pieces right here, the gloss or the quote shine, okay? Now normal info for Photoshop is just a diagonal line which is half and half. We don't want that. There's one here called ring, and that gives you that gold ring. It's kind of an industry standard for giving things that metallic gold shine. See that? How now it has that kind of a metallic shine to it? Yeah. And of course, if you want this, if it's a little too rough for you, you can always use anti-alias and kind of smooth out some of those little rough pixels on it. Now, when it comes to the highlights, we need our highlights to be very vivid. So I'm going to put in vivid light, crank this to 100% and multiply. Technically, I like to do 100%, but some people say, oh, it's too strong. So if you want to, you can drop it down to 75. And yeah, it does have a nice look to it. And okay, so we now have kind of silver text as we have at the moment. Click OK. So you can see that we basically just added two effects. We added in there a drop shadow and also the beveling to that. Now comes in the area where we add in texture to this. Now I've went onto Pixabay and I found a nice kind of sandstone texture. So I'm going to drag and drop that right on top of the text. And time to apply what's called a clipping mask. And so we have our texture and we're now going to apply this to it. So let's say layer here and we're going to say create clipping mask. And boom, look there, it already looks kind of gold. It's now applying this texture right onto the text, and that looks pretty nice already. How about that? Now, if I want to add in some more effects, I can, of course, put in a new layer, and I want to do a clipping mask on top of that. So, clipping mask, because I want both of these layers, whatever happens, to apply only to our gold text. I don't want it going to the whole image. That would look really weird if the whole image was just pure gold, okay? So anyway, now with our new layer we put in here, I'm going to call this highlights. And I'm going to grab myself the brush tool right here. And how about grab myself a nice bright kind of golden yellow. How about there? Good. And now I can just start painting kind of gold highlights in areas that I really want some of that gold to kind of shine forward. And be careful that you can overdo things with gold pretty fast, because the human eye knows that there should be lots of light and lots of dark areas, that type of stuff. And if you get too much light in there, it can start to kind of get that fake look real fast. So of course you can always take it back out. That's one of the cool things about Photoshop, is that nothing's permanent. You can always go through and change stuff. Alright, so let's go ahead and change the color. Let's go find ourselves like a nice brown. Let's go find like a nice brown. Yeah, I'm going to drop the opacity down to like 30%. Kind of help pop forward some of those little crevices into this. So it's even a little bit more chiseled. See that? Yeah, 50%. Kind of give it that little bit of a burnt look to it. Put in that contrast so it looks sharp, bright, and good. Yeah, that right on in with that. Ooh, it's starting to look really good. How about that? Neat. Now, one of the things people often wonder is that with gold you need shadows, because gold reflects a lot of light, but in order for gold to look great, you also have to have dark colors to go with it. So this is where we're going to do our adjustment layer. So I'm going to put in a levels here. I'm going to drop the levels way back, kind of almost dark, like a shadow right there. Now some of you guys are going, oh, it's ruined the look. Well, guess what? We have a layer mask right here. At the layer mask, we can say what portions the shadows go on. So I can choose a black brush, because black brings back. White will apply the whole effect, and where you paint black on this layer mask, it will take away the effect. So I'm going to grab a big brush, and how about like 800 pixels? It's going to be big brush, and I'm going to repaint back in by using black on this. Look there. So you can paint back what you want. So by putting shadows in there, it really helps to draw your eyes into the gold on the text. Pretty neat. Now, if you need to undo some of that, of course, you can switch the colors back to white. And of course, white, in this case, will apply that layer mask and bring back some of that deep shadow right on in there. Whoops, whoa. Okay, there it goes. Okay, good. And say I want to bring back some of these little bushes and twigs so they show up nicely in that. And some of that color, I like that in there, good. Okay. Drop this down so I can access the edges a little bit easier. How about that? That's looking good. Now, we can also do the same thing with text on a path. So let's go ahead and create ourselves a pin tool. And we can click and put in a path. If I want to, I can curve it. And drop down the font size down to like 80. And oops, oh, I need to make this left align. And much smaller text, maybe like 80 in size. Okay. Let's find gold. Cool. And so we now have the text. Now, how can we go through and reapply this gold texture to it? Well, nice thing about it is we can copy our layer style. Right click on that and say copy layer style. I can come up to my let's find. I'm going to drag that to the top here. And then I can paste the layer style that we created right onto it. And there it is. Paste layer style. Boom. You notice it now has that style right onto it. Now if I want to, I can then I'm going to cancel the drop shadow or drop the drop shadow way back. It's still a little too strong. Maybe like 30 and 20. Yeah, that's a little bit better there. Now if I want to, I can put a layer on top of this. Put a clipping mask between them. And with this layer, I can now grab myself a nice gold color. There we go. And let's go ahead and zoom on in here. And we can now start painting in little highlights on the text if we want it. See there? Pretty cool. Alright, so let's find gold. And if I want to, I can grab out the eraser. I think I got a little too much on there. So I'm going to drop this back, make the softness 0, kind of paint back across in here. Put some of that white kind of back into that silver look. There you go. Good. So it gives you a little idea of how to create golden text. Now the key thing, just to quickly reiterate, is that you need to put in a drop shadow and a bevel emboss. And then bevel emboss, two main things. You need to, of course, have it chisel hard with a strong depth and a strong size. Choose your lighting and then make sure you switch it to a gold ring style, and then make sure you put in your vivid light with multiply and make sure you get these values. If you need to, kind of write them down, and sometimes artists will keep a little journal. So if I want gold effect, here's some of the settings I need for that. And so anyway, shows you guys how this is done.